Hello out there, and welcome to this video about remote method invocation and MVVM. So this is the plan for the video. We're going to just quickly refresh the layered architecture in order to illustrate the goal for today. For this video, so no matter which day you are watching the video, the goal is still the same. And that goal is that I want to take my previous uppercase MVVM socket example program thing, and I want to remove all socket networking and I want to swap it out with the RMI. And we're going to start out with a class diagram just to get a quick overview of what it is that I plan on doing. And then we are going to actually code that example. So the goal for this video is to take my previous program and swap out the networking layer from sockets to RMI. So we have our layered structure, layered architecture that I hope you have seen in the other video. On the client side on the top part and server side on the bottom part here, we have a view layer and a logic model layer, some networking going on, and there's also a model on the server side, and there's some database access. And all these layers are they're all separated with an interface border like this. So in my example, we don't need the database, so I'm just going to remove that. And this is my current version of the uppercase MVVM program. I'm using sockets here, and our goal is to take those sockets and throw it away and then insert some RMI instead. And hopefully we can do that because of the interface borders here. So I can do the swap without modifying anything below this interface and without modifying anything above this interface. So my GUI and front-end model does not need to know that I have changed the sockets to be RMI instead, and my backend model is not affected either, and I shouldn't have to change any code down here nor any code up here at all if I have made my program correctly and kept my layers cleanly separated. I've seen some assignments where this is not always true. Some of the common approaches is to take the request object and forward that to the model, but that request object is only there because you need to send it back and forth between the client and the server networking layer. So if you have code up here depending on a request, that code is written because of some code down here is structured in a specific way. So you have your networking layer is bleeding through to the model layer, and we don't want that. Another common example or mistake is that the interface here defines that it throws IO exceptions or socket exceptions or class not found exceptions. Again, an indication of what is happening inside the networking layer, and we don't want to forward those exceptions up to the model. If you do need to throw exceptions, which is quite valid and common and necessary sometimes, then you should either define your own exception or throw a runtime exception to forward errors to the model. So my goal is to change the networking layer without affecting the other layers around it, and in this way illustrate that it can be beneficial to keep the layers cleanly separated. Okay, so let's start out with the previous version, my MVVM networking, the uppercase example. So that was the program, and I was currently using sockets in my networking layer, the yellow packages. So I had the client side, which is everything up here. My server package is the gray one, so that belongs on the server, and there's something that's shared, so they both know about it. For example, the subject interface and the transfer objects that are sent back and forth. And it is the classes in the yellow package here that we want to. Okay, so the lightning is a bit out of sync, but it doesn't matter. These are the classes that I want to swap out, and because of the interface, we can basically consider the rest of the yellow packages here, my networking, we can consider that a black box. So the client model just knows about the interface and cares nothing about what is actually inside this black box. and I should be able to modify it as long as I follow the contract that this interface defines. On the server side, I have a dependency going out, so nothing down here cares about that. And I do actually also have a little bit of interaction from the text manager implementation down here and to the networking layer, but that is nicely decoupled because we're using the observer pattern, so it doesn't really know what is up here, just that there might or might not be something that cares about events being fired from down here. So nothing in the server model depends on or uses anything from the layer on top of it. So we also have a nice separation down here. So I want to swap out everything behind the black box here, and I am going to need to add a little bit of extra. So let's check out what the next step is if I want to convert this to use RMI instead of sockets. All right, so that's the next diagram that I have here. So you will see that it is almost the same. Let me just cover this part because that has not changed at all. I haven't changed this or modified it in any way. It's only the yellow packages down here. So let's just zoom in on these. So I do have a new client class, RMI client. You will see that the interface is identical to the one from before. So my model still just knows about that interface. I have an RMI server implementation, and then I have a new package in the shared where I have the interfaces. So the RMI server interface provides, or defines all the methods that the client side can call, and I also have a client callback because if you remember, then my my client side could be updated whenever something happened on the server side. So there was a push notification from the server. So I need this client callback. We can basically consider this an observer pattern as well. When something happens here in the server, we would loop through all these and send a message back to the client side. And they both extend the remote interface. So that's not something that I have put in the networking package created myself. It's the java.rmi.remote interface. I just have it here so you can see it. So the yellow packages are being modified, and almost nothing outside of those packages will be touched. There is a small detail though, because these two, my client factory and my run server here, they are the ones instantiating these. So the client factory is no longer creating a socket client, it's now creating an RMI client. So I do need to change one constructor up here, and sort of the same thing down here, as well as creating the registry, so we can also start the server. So yellow packages being modified, and these two classes also being changed a little bit, but that's all I have to touch. Nothing else is being changed. That's the goal, at least. So I hope the plan is clear. I want to take my previous uppercase program and swap out the networking layer from the previous socket version to the new and I don't know, better, improved, maybe not, but different at least, RMI layer here. So let's get to it. Give it a go. I have my IntelliJ open. I've created a new package, RMI socket uppercase. Let me just see if I am lucky enough to be able to copy the entire program from previously. So that's my socket program. I don't feel like anything is happening. Interesting. Hang on. Alright, so I just quickly glanced through my program. It seems that all the previous socket uppercase package names here has now been changed to RMI uppercase, and I also remember to make sure that the fxml files here is now referencing the correct controller. So I do think that I have copied my program correctly. It now has a duplicate, and just to be sure, let me just run everything and see if this one still works as expected. Okay, I just renamed this one to be run RMI uppercase app because I do already have some run configurations for the other one. So it's just to distinguish the run uppercase app from the other, I had another run uppercase app down here, and there's probably also one up here somewhere, run uppercase app. So just to be a bit more clear about which one it is that I'm actually running, and we're just compiling everything. So hang on, and there we go. I can submit that one, sends back. That's a log, and I can see a log over here, hopefully. That is wonderful, and I send something new, submit, and I actually get that shown up here. And if I send something over here, submit, then I see the log and it's over here. So that is still working as expected. Okay, so now let's do the test where I remove the networking stuff and see if my program still compiles. So I want to remove the socket client, away with you, delete and away, so I know that's being used, okay. And okay, let me just fix that because I know the client factory. So I'll temporarily comment this out. Here we go. And then on the server side, I want to remove the socket handler and the server. There we go. I know they're being used, doesn't matter. And in here, we'll just comment this out for now. Okay, and let's stop all that and compile and see. Now I have removed everything related to the client, the client server networking. I just have the interface left. So only this interface is left, and all the rest, well, I guess that's the other diagram. Maybe I should show it here. So this one, I removed everything in the yellow package except the interface here. And let's just see if things are still working. Yep, compiles, process finished. There's no compilation successful. Okay, so that's a good start. Now let us start with the server side here. I want to create an RMI server. And yeah, I want to, so this must have an interface to define what can be called upon the server. So I will make that one. I will just rename this to actually be RMI server impl. And here we create the RMI server as an interface. And yeah, and let's just check the diagram. What do I need? I need to uppercase, get logs. Let's start with the uppercase, string to uppercase, takes a string like that, and throws remote exception. Oh, I forgot to define that in my diagram. I hope you can. Right. It takes up so much space. It's just, you know, and now it breaks. Right. So it's so long in class now. Anyway, this one must extend remote like that. The other method is get logs. So we say it was a list of log entry. That was the wrong one. So now again, because I have duplicates, right? So which one do I pick? I need to make sure that it is the RMI share transfer objects like that. And I need to import the list and get logs like that. And this also throws remote exception. And finally, I have the register callback, but I need to define the interface first. So let me just do the interface for the RMI client. And I have to do that because the argument is of type that interface. So I need this to create it before I can use it down here. So let me just create the what did I call it? I call it client callback. And that's an interface, and it yep, extends remote like that. Come on. And we have the void update with a log entry like that, and again throws remote exception. And now I can go back and define my server down here. So I want to be able to register client call back client and throws remote exception. Now obviously if I were to elaborate on the program, I would also have a onRegister client method, because sometimes I want to remove a client from listening to the server. So that's it for my interfaces. Let's just see, right? I have my two interfaces, they extend remote, and they all have the throws remote exception stuff. So now I can implement the server interface over here in the RMI server impl, and let's get to that. Server RMI server impl. It implements the RMI server from there. RMI server socket factory. Okay, that's not mine. Yeah, I want to implement these. I will have a constructor. So we say I need a constructor. I need to do the unicast remote object, export object, this, that one, and I will just exception here. Okay, so to uppercase, and I need the text manager. And I want to set that this text manager like that, and I want to create a field like that. Yeah. So that's probably a good start. I actually do have a start server here, but I'm not entirely sure I need it this time around, because now it started. I could do the okay, let's try and do that here. So I will do the locate registry, create registry. So I'll do that in here instead of the main method, and we will throw that. And I have my registry. Now I say registry.bind name. I'll just call it uppercase server, and I want to bind this. And I can also throw an exception. Okay. So that's starting my server. Now it's sort of similar to starting that server socket with the accept call. Now I have my registry available, so others can contact the server. Okay, so here we want to say text manager to uppercase with the string. It's fairly straightforward. There's nothing to throw. So I get these throws remote exception because they are defined in my RMI server interface. Let's see here, right here. So so that they also come down here, but I remove them if they're not needed. They're still defined in the interface. So on the other side, when the client side calls the methods on the calls these methods here, that client side, the client side must handle these exceptions somehow. So these exceptions can also be, thrown whenever the connection breaks or something like that. But down here, I remove them if they're not needed. Right? I don't want dead code, unneeded code lying around. Okay, get logs. I want to again say text manager, get log, and what do I get here? I'll get a list of log entry. So what is it complaining about? So here I have made a wrong. You see here, there's something about the log entry. One of them is RMI uppercase, the other is socket uppercase. So my log entry here is RMI uppercase, and what I have down here in my model is apparently the other log entry. So I made a mistake here and not copied that correctly, so I need to make sure I'm using the right one, like that. And still complaining because of the interface is probably defining the other log entry. Yeah, so I'll have to clean that up and make sure I'm using the right subject. So I apparently did not copy everything entirely correctly. Let's just go through this like that. And if the subject part failed here, I just want to make sure that it works on the other side. So this one that's the correct one. And I know my text converter manager is also a subject. Subject, text converter. See the subject. So that's the right subject for my RMI uppercase also. So that part is probably okay. Right. That was a sidetrack. I was working on the server implementation. So now my text manager can return the correct logs. Okay, last one here. Here I want to register my client for a so that it is updated whenever the text manager model fires an event about a new log being created or added. So I will say add listener, and I forgot what it is that we are listening to. It's probably new log entry or something like that. Let's just see, new log entry, like that. So I want that one, and I'm going to use a lambda expression here because I'm not sure I can directly call the method on the client, because this client here, the method on that one, also throws remote exception. So I will say client update with the event.get new value, and I know this value is of type log entry from not that one. Okay, so again, it's always a hassle to copy all your codes. I want that one. And right, so I still have some mismatch going on here. See, wrong log entry again. I want to import the correct one. I really didn't copy that very well. So let's see here. Now the update actually throws this remote exception. So here I have to handle it because I'm trying to call a remote method, and if the client is unavailable, then I want to catch it. I could actually say text manager dot remove from new log entry, and I want to remove this client. Oh, I cannot do like that. Okay. So I will instead take this part one. I will make a I hope you can follow along. So I'm now defining my listener outside here instead of just doing the lambda expression in here. So here I can say if it fails, I want the text manager to remove the listener of my new log entry and this listener. Let's see if this works. Might not have been initialized. Hang on. Okay, so I just auto-completed away or quick fixed, and apparently I got this result here. So I'm defining a listener. I'm defining another listener which is equal to the first one that might be null, and then I initialize the second one and remove the first one. So I do have two variables. They are pointing to the same thing, but this is a bit strange. I don't know. Maybe it works. Okay, so now my server here should be able to listen to events being fired from my text manager, and whenever such an event is being fired, right, my listener here is defined. So that means this one is being called or activated, or whatever you want to call it, and I sent an update to my client. Word of warning, or disclaimer, I don't know, I haven't actually prepared this example, so let's see how it goes. It's always a bold move. But I do believe that is my server side. I have made a new RMI server, and I just need to fix this part actually. So instead of a socket server, it is now an RMI server, like that, and like that, and yeah. Oh, that's not what we want. RMI server import. There we go. And I want to import it, yeah. And we have all kinds of exceptions. And is it not start server? Let's just see. This one, public void start server. It's because of the interface. We'll do like that. And start server, add exceptions. And what's going on here? Again, I'm using the wrong uppercase text manager. See, the imports are incorrect. So my server import here, that one, wrong import. Import the right one. Here you go. Thank you very much. And that now compiles. Well, at least it doesn't complain. So that should conclude my server side and also my shared package. I do have both of my interfaces here. I have my server with the methods available, and I have my, well, not yet. I have the interface for the client. I just need the client class here. So let's go to this one, and where do we go? We go here. Here we go. We are going. We are almost there. Network. There we go. RMI client. Like that. And yes, I want to edit. And I want to implement client from that one. Yeah. I also want to implement the client callback. That one. Yeah. And I need to implement all the methods. Subject. Yeah. All kinds of stuff. Good stuff all around. Okay. So I need a constructor. And should that actually do something? I don't remember. Probably not. And I also need a, so where do I run the, so I can just change this already to say RMI client, this one. Yeah, it's fine. So my client factory is up to date. Let's move that, and that should be it. So here we say locate registry, get registry, add my local host, and the port number 1099, and I want to surround with a try-catch here, because that's not the responsibility of the client factory to handle the exceptions out here. I want to do it here, and that will give me a registry. Okay, registry. Yeah, it doesn't matter what I name it. And on this registry, I will say lookup uppercase server, and hope this is the right name. So let's just see, what did my server call itself? My server, uppercase server. Did I spell it correctly? Yep, that looks all right. And there's a lookup, so we will add a catch clause, and I will just collapse them. So obviously again I would do something to show the user that something went wrong and try again a little later, or restart the program or whatever. Here I know that I am getting a server RMI server. Yeah, that sounds right. And I'll just do like that. So now I have an RMI server. I want to have this as a field variable so I can actually use it in the rest of my class. Might not have been initialized. I will not make it final then. Okay. I do actually have a start client. I will move it down here. I forgot the start client in my class diagram, I think. Yes, no start client here. Let me just check. Client, start client. Okay, so we'll just start from the top. To uppercase, I will say server to uppercase with that one. Yeah. And here I don't want to throw it, because then the model will have to do something about a remote exception, and the model should not know about remote exceptions, right? As I said before. So I want to surround with the try catch, and I could throw a new runtime exception here. Could not contact server. Right, and then I could handle that somewhere else in my model, which would perhaps throw it forward to the view model, which might then print out an error message in the GUI. I could alternatively just return, an empty string to indicate something went wrong or something like that. It's slightly less user friendly because the user doesn't see anything, so I could return error. So, but I will leave it at this here. Next one is to say server get logs, and again we surround with a try catch, and I will just do something similar here. And I have the start client. I'll just move the method up. There we go. So I like to have my methods in the order they are called as much as possible, and public methods on the top and private at the bottom. So just some kind of structure, and I know where to look for stuff. So the constructor is obviously called first, but then this start client is always called just after, I assume, by my model somewhere. Yes, my model gets the client and starts it, and then it wants to add a new listener, so maybe that's the next part. See here, update log. That is from my remote interface here, right? So we have reached the observer part. My client is an observer, so whenever something is pushed from the server side, I need to be able to notify the model that I have received whatever. So we will say private property change support equals blah blah. Maybe I want to instantiate that in the down here. Support doesn't really make a difference, I guess, like that. Okay, and I'll just start here. Support add blah 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 with event name and listener. Yep. And down here I want to remove, say one like that. And now whenever I receive something, this does not throw anything. I want to say support dot fire property change event, and it is of type something. Let me just find my model to see it's listening for new entry, and it's that, and the old one is null and the new one is log. There we go. And that should be my client class. So my client is in place. Hope you are still following along. Oh. So all my yellow stuff here, yellow packages, have been swapped out from doing sockets, and I think I have sort of put everything together correctly. And the next step is just to see if I can actually run it, and let's give that a go. So I'm my server. Alright, so I have these two open. I just had to fix some more of those import errors. So, but it seems to be working now. I will say hello on this one. That's a submit, and that actually works, and nothing is printing out. So no errors. Oh, not that here. And I can see the log for hope. So yeah, there's a log. And I can see a log over here perhaps. There's also a log over here. And now comes the interesting part. If I made that observer thing correct, other hello, and I want to submit, and oh, That is unfortunate. So that's not updated. Other hello. Okay, hang on. Right, so I forgot something. And that is to call the register client, right? So my client needs to register itself as a listener, saying that it actually wants to listen to the server. So let's just do that and say register client. So in my RMI client, in the start client, I want to say register this. And obviously I might want to actually register by an event name, and I can do something similar, saying register a method perhaps, but we'll keep it simple. So let's give it another go, see what happens this time around. Right, so I'm trying to run my client and I get an exception here, error marshalling arguments, and that is usually because I have not made the exporting of my object. So my start client, obviously it needs to export itself. So unicast remote object, export this by default port, right? So that's the exporting, meaning that remote objects can call methods on my client. So let's just rerun that one. Okay, here we go. We will see what happens now. Submit. I get hello. Nothing is printed out. Check the log. And there we go. Hello. Hello again. Isn't it wonderful? It seems to actually work. I go back here and check the other log and other log. Hello to you. And that also pops up and I get this response back. So now it seems to work just like I wanted to. So I just forgot the exporting and the registering of my client so that it actually registers itself as a listener on the server. So I think that's all for the programming. That is all for the video. I have achieved my goal, as you remember from the beginning, with my networking layer here, and it is now swapped out to be a RMI networking layer, and I didn't need to touch anything outside of that layer except the main method on the server side and the client factory on the client side. Let me just find those. So these two guys, right? Those were the only ones I had to modify outside of my networking layer, the yellow stuff. So I have successfully isolated my networking behind my interfaces, and there's nothing bleeding through to the layers outside. And I'm curious to see when you do the exercises how much you have that you need to change outside of your networking layer. So thank you all for watching.